Welcome to the Week in Truth number 14, Brian Harvey. Now, obviously Brian Harvey is, his star is in the ascendant at the moment because of all the Sean Atwood affair. Shortly before this Cali prank stuff happened, Sean had Ian Puddick on his show. Now, everybody knows that Ian Puddick is a big fakey cake maker. He's a total shill. Everyone has known that for years. Everyone has known that Bill Maloney's a complete fake as well. We call him Baloney now. So anyway, everyone was leaving comments underneath this Sean Atwood video. Even before it premiered, there were loads of comments saying, go and watch Brian Harvey's channel all about Ian Puddick and you'll see what's going on. So I went to Brian Harvey's channel, and no word of a lie, other people have said this. Sometimes it's hard to work out what these videos are on about. There isn't really any narration. There's a lot of questions that need to be asked and answered, and Brian himself turns the comments off all the time, presumably because he says he's being trolled by Andrew Guy, which seems to be like everyone's being trolled by Andrew Guy. I'll probably start being trolled by Andrew Guy. Anyway, right, so there's lots of questions I'd like to ask Brian Harvey. I've left some comments for him, and he hasn't, on the videos that don't have the comments switched off, which are few and far between, and he hasn't really answered any of those, so he doesn't seem to want to talk to me in particular. But I'd started to go through the videos again today because I'd like to do something about Ian Puddick too, because I've had my own run-ins with Ian Puddick, and I'd like to talk about what happened to me as well, which was all back around about sort of 2010, 2012, that kind of period of time. And, Ian Puddick is like a complete wanker, basically, and he's nasty, actually. So I can't blame Brian for that. And, if you want to watch videos, you'll have to take some time to do it, but certainly Brian's work on that is quite convincing. But there are just a few things that kind of freak me out about Brian's stuff and make me feel a bit uncomfortable. Now, this still here that I'm showing you is that part of the video where the police come round and they want to arrest him for malicious communications, which basically he's been sending all these tweets and whatnot to Ian Puddick, and Ian Puddick wants him stopped, basically. So he's called the police and said, this guy's harassing me online, and this is supposed to be an undercover policeman, and they want to take him down to the station. But somehow Brian Harvey's all set up and ready to film it with good quality sound and all the rest of it. But the police don't normally tell you when they're coming around. They just appear. I know this because I've had my dealings with them myself, even though I'm a law-abiding citizen. So anyway, does this mean Brian's gaff is all set up with CCTV? I can tell you, as a CCTV user myself, that most CCTV systems do not have sound. Even when they do, the quality of the sound doesn't tend to be very good. So quite why Brian's gaff is either perfectly wired for sound in this way, I don't know. It just strikes me as unlikely. The whole thing's a bit weird. Now, because I don't have loads of money and I'm not bankrolled by GCHQ, all I have is my crappy screen recorder to do these videos for you on. I want to show you the Andrew Ash footage that he goes on about. Brian says that, and I don't know how on earth he got associated with Ian Puddick in the first place, or Bill Maloney. I have absolutely no clue, because he doesn't really go into that, apart from it's something to do with the News of the World phone hacking trial that went on. So anyway, the story goes that he was invited round to this Bill Maloney thing where he's got Andrew Ash and Chris Fay, who are the witnesses for Operation Fernbridge, which is the Westminster paedophile ring inquiry. So he's going round there to listen to them, and Ian Puddick's bought him a camera to record the whole thing, this ninja camera that he goes on about. Now, when you look at the footage, and I'm going to play most of it, including the bit where he speaks to David Icke about the allegations, because it seems like Bill Maloney, who we now call Baloney, because we all know he's a complete fake. He's really bent as an iron bob note. So this footage is crystal clear. The sound's really good. And there's more than one camera angle, which means that when the edits are done and that the timing of the speech in it is the audio track's completely in sync with it, there had to be more than one camera used. So that footage is not from the Ninja camera that he used. And when you're trying to film things secretly, the sound's always a bit muffly and crap. I mean, I know that because I've had to do a lot of that in my time, particularly with social workers coming round. You had to record everything because they'd just start lying. I mean, they lied anyway, but I always had the evidence of my recordings to prove that that was the case. But anyway, so I know about taking covert recordings, and even with the best camera, you have to hide the damn thing. So it's, poking out from your buttonhole or a shirt or something like that. And the sound is usually the worst aspect of it. So either he's got this footage from somewhere, has he asked Bill Maloney for it? Because he never says that. He never says, this is not the footage from my Ninja camera. But it's really good quality footage. There are multiple camera angles. And of course, there is the sound is really good. It just kind of makes you wonder. But, Brian, we can't ask you any questions, can we? So, I don't know. This is one of the most important parts of this whole thing anyway, where Andrew Ash, guided by Baloney, who seems to be quite a brutal and unpleasant man, who has bullied Andrew Ash, who is the main witness, to say these things. It's a very interesting piece of footage anyway. And I'm grateful to Brian for posting it, but I don't entirely know what I'm looking at sometimes, if you know what I mean. So I just have questions to ask about it, being as I'm interested in the truth. That's why. So I'm sorry, Brian, if this pisses you off, but basically some questions need to be asked. I can't play this footage and talk over it because my screen recorder goes absolutely apeshit and just starts sort of clipping and cutting out and things like that. Unfortunately, as I've said, I'm not bankrolled by GCHQ, so I don't have loads of technology. And back in the day when the police were coming around to my house when I was out, they broke most of my computer stuff anyway. So this is all I've got is my little Chromebook and some bloody headphones, you know what I mean? Right, anyway, let's get this baby going.
And it was big, like the cabin place where everybody goes and stuff, like it's a table in it and they eat in it, and it's a cabin and eating. You can eat in it, and it's a cabin, it's like a table with chairs around and.
It's an old-fashioned sailing ship.
Okay, an old-fashioned sailing ship. Now, so how many occasions did you have? Did David Icke penetrate you with his penis?
He was there all 3 days, and yeah, I think I got buggered by him. Yeah.
How many times did David Icke bugger you on that trip?
He only did me once, but he did younger lads.
Younger lads? Any disabled kids?
There was only disabled kids there.
So he was having sex. He had sex with you.
I was probably the oldest kid.
And how old was you then?
I was under 16.
Right.
Yeah, we were under 16.
You'd have been about 14.
About 14. Mm-hmm. So David Icke's had sex, he buggered you there, right? And then bearing in mind, you were really the equivalent to a rent boy.
So that interview, the 1-4 pie and mash, right on the end of it, Bill then turns to the camera and says, and there's one more thing I want to talk about, and it's David Icke.
What I do want to talk about that came out is David Icke. Now, Andrew, you told me that you had sex with David Icke. Where did you have sex with David Icke?
We picked him up we picked him.
You
I was picked up from Amsterdam with film equipment.
Right. On a boat.
On a boat, the big massive.
Whose boat was that, Chris?
Charles Napier of Azimuth Trust.
And the Azimuth Trust is,
It
was?
It offered children in care boating holidays. It particularly specialised in very young disabled children.
Okay, now you was on a boat. You was picked up at Amsterdam.
Amsterdam with film crew and a couple of there was 3 of us were me, and I went with the film crew. I was carrying the stuff and.
Okay, this was making pornographic movies, child pornography.
The fix them to set off in England, we couldn't. You couldn't go.
So you went to the Isle of
They
Wight.
went from England to Innocent. Then they picked the camera people up from. They picked the camera people up first. Went over to Amsterdam to get supplies and stuff and pick up.
And then you went to the Isle of Wight to pick up David Icke. And he got on that boat.
And he was on that boat 100%.
And there were disabled children on that
I know,
boat
mate.
going-
Right? So what he says is that... I know, right? He says he gets picked up from Amsterdam with filming equipment on Charles Napier's boat with the Azimuth Trust. They come over to the Isle of Wight and pick you up. You get on the boat, and then on the boat there's disabled kids and stuff, and you're having sex with one of the disabled kids, and also you supposedly have sex with Andrew in one of the cabins, right? Right. So that's what he's saying about you. Then.
Has he said this publicly?
No, he hasn't said it publicly, and Bill hasn't published this interview.
Well, we'll be straight to court if he did.
Yeah, well, it ain't going to happen anyway, because personally, I think I'm there filming, and this was for me to put out, I think, David.
Yeah, I tell you what, mate. That is